what was happening is that I wasn't aware of how everyone was being treated or what was going on site. And so what had come to fruition rather abruptly was basically just that not everybody was treated the way that I would have sort of wanted. And how we'd outline treatment of people is that you have to let go of things. But I didn't know that the culture that was happening on place was a little more toxic than I would have tolerated.
Being willing to hear feedback on systems that aren't working. Being willing to take input on like what's going to work for us out here in the field from a system perspective versus in the office perspective, okay? Not to get into what system the point was he felt that he could contribute. He felt that he was part of the solution. All right, rock stars, Andrew Houston here, and I got my man Theo. We're going to be doing this no bullshit podcast. You're listening in. This is the signal to say stay or freaking get off it, which is if you're looking to really solidify and build an A team, you're looking to attract A players. You know, if you're looking at really taking your business, your contracting business to the next level, especially if you've got a team that you want them to stick, a team that you want them to play, okay? The way that you want them to play, to be able to deliver the way that you want them to deliver, to really be able to be seen as that contractor in your space, then you're at the right place, okay? So Theo, let's go, buddy.
Thanks for having me. It's been a while.
So go ahead.
No, we keep running it. We keep seeing you came to me out in Gananoque, and now I get to come to you here in Ottawa. It's great to be able to do this in person.
It's awesome. Theo, by the way, has a couple of different hats and engagements here at Prof for Contractors. So, you know, from a client perspective, from a peer mentor perspective, from a person that, you know, is supporting your contracting business and growing it perspective. So lots of different angles on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we were talking about, and again, guys, this is no bullshit podcast, okay? So I'm going to be tapping into Theo's brain into a point in his business going back in time where he had to pivot, okay? Where he had to make some changes. And we're going to walk through his perspective of what were some of the challenges, what were some of the struggles, and what were the things that he did that today you're running a great contracting business, right, dude?
So some would say.
Yeah, some would say, yeah. Profitable. Yeah. Yeah. You having fun again?
People are happy.
People are happy?
Happier.
Yeah,
we've learned lots of things. Yeah, we can touch on.
Lots of people applying to work for your company now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a nice, we do like these working interviews. So people come in and spend a couple of days with the team. So the team ends up being the calling card for the guys. So they can do an interview and they can sit with me and they can fill out a questionnaire.
Love it.
They actually come and spend some days hammering with us. And if they like it, they stay.
Dude, okay. So we'll get into that. Okay. So we'll get into, again, some of these strategies that you guys can totally apply. Okay. So let's talk about some of these struggles. Okay. And you hear other contractors, you know, especially being a peer mentor here, you know, that means what that means, guys, is that Theo, was a client that was there, been there, done it, evolved his business, moved it up what we call the contractor's ladder of success to stability and moving into scale. And now he helps other champion CEO contractors, who's part of the PFC community, you know, on a weekly basis to address the challenges and things that they have. Okay. So one of the things that keeps popping up, okay, even for especially the new clients and people that we, you know, talk to, and you brought this up, is this challenge with building the team. Okay. And there's so many different aspects of challenge when it comes to a team. So going back in time, let's just take a snapshot of like this sort of this nightmare week or nightmare month that you're going through, and then we'll, you know, talk about, you know, what did you do and
totally.
Nature. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So early on, the company's only about 5 years old. Songwood, 5. I think we're in our 6th year now. We grew very quickly. We grew very rapidly. We're a cost plus company, and we can touch on that. And we scaled as we grew pretty rapidly. And I would say I thought at first it was probably because of that I just wanted to do things a little differently. I wanted to run the company a little differently. I've worked with other construction businesses. I've had 20 different employers since I was 14. And so I had a lot of bad examples of bosses I didn't want to be, or a lot of good examples of bosses I didn't want to be.
Right.
And so I sort of had this idea of what the business would look like and how we would treat people. That all worked out fine and good when I was on the tools, because I was able to be there and I was able to like embody what I wanted the culture to be. So I was able to drive home how we treat people, how we communicate. I remember having like nail guns fired at me and yelling and screaming and hammers thrown at me and stuff like that. And it's like, as like a young tradie, and then realized that like, well, that's what I didn't like. And then now I'm in charge, so I can decide how I want this to be, and I can decide how I want this to look. And so that was great. But as you scale, and as that worked, and as maybe that's why some people came and joined the company, because we wanted to just like do things a little differently. So if that's the sort of the case, we were then losing that the more we, I don't want to say diluted, because it's not the case, but as we grew and I was then less on the tool, which is a good thing. I didn't have a metric. I didn't have a way to control the culture being carried. So I didn't have a way to make sure that when I wasn't there, everyone was still being treated the way that I wanted everybody to be treated, because you're bringing in these new team members that love it, and they maybe join because they see you and then you're there. But then how do you make sure that when Andrew's not around, that the way you want everybody to be treated is carried out across the board? How do you make sure the whole PFC team treats everybody the same? How does Theo make sure that his whole team, any business would have this struggle?
Totally. Now let's just pause for a sec, okay? So I want to get into that. I want to get into what did you do? I want to get into why I'm holding this Yeti, okay?
Shameless plug.
Songwood contracting on it, okay? In just a minute. But what happened? Let's talk about like this struggle.
So what happened is we didn't really, I didn't know how to navigate as we grew. I want to say we're at maybe 13 or 14 team members. So we're like 7 in the field and 5 in the office, right? And the office would be like construction manager, project manager, and then the admin team.
Yep.
As we sort of hit this sort of critical mass where it became us versus them. And this is their words. Once we were able to communicate with the team, we realized there was an us versus them dynamic that was happening in the field versus the office. And so what the issues that were arising were, we didn't really know how to have like a remediation plan or how to fix remediative action around the team members. So if they were,
you didn't even know this was happening.
No, well, this is the thing is like, there was, as I had stepped away doing like CEO stuff, like I'm landing jobs like a year away and I'm meeting with clients and I'm quoting stuff that's 12 months in advance. Our construction manager would be handling things that is, the 3 to 6 month range.
Yep.
And then our PMs handle the day-to-day and by the weekly stuff. So what was happening is that I wasn't aware of how everyone was being treated or what was going on site. And so what had come to fruition rather abruptly was basically just that not everybody was treated the way that I would have sort of wanted, and how we'd how we'd outline treatment of people is that you have to let go of things. But I didn't know that the culture that was happening on place was a little more toxic than I would have tolerated. But I was not head in the sand. I was head down the highway.
You thought you were doing the right things, focusing on the right things. Now,
and it was that a pot was being stirred. Words were being exchanged that I was unaware of. That was really causing it. And because the team also wanted to respect how busy I was, some of the longer standing team members knew to come to me and was like, "Hey, by the way, like, that when this guy's on site, he doesn't say the nicest things to us." And I go, "That's okay." I didn't know how to deal with it. I was like, yeah, cool. And I gotta go. But the newer team members, that's what they experienced all the time. They never had Theo on site.
8 hours, 8, 9 hours.
They never witnessed the softer side of Theo. So they didn't know. They just thought this was the company, which wasn't indicative of truly our beliefs, cultures, values, mission, vision.
Yep.
It wasn't indicative of what we actually behaved like. Mm-hmm. And so we had a blowout.
So when you say blowout, like, I'm honing in on this point in time where things are bad. Like, things were bad, man. You were like,
let's focus on that, Andrew.
Yeah, dude. Like, so to call it what it is.
Yeah, spade to spade. So what had happened was basically it had come to a boiling point where we weren't really listening to the team. And by weren't really listening, like we didn't have a device, a mechanism in place to listen to the team, a microphone to the team. We were doing like biannual reviews of the team, but it was more about like how they were doing and not about how we were doing. We never really asked them about how good we were at being management. We never gave them really the microphone. We would do biannual reviews with everybody, but I never said, how am I doing?
Totally.
How am I being a good?
But you lost people because of this, right? Like you had people leave, you had to let people go.
Yeah. So it was to a point where we were trying to fight this alignment issue with one of our lead guys, where we were trying to paint this picture, but again, and for a multitude of reasons, some on his side of the fence, somehow some on our side of the fence, is that we had to let him go. And that was really hard to do. This is a guy who'd been there for 4 years. So it was really hard to do. Like, they never tell you when you open a business, like, open a business, fire your friends. They never know. They never tell you that. Right. It sucks. It sucks shit to have to fire someone. But then in doing so,
so you knew this person personally?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, it was one of the like team member like 2.0, like the second one we hired. So we've been with 4 years. But again, because of a misalignment on his end, and what we thought was a pretty clear picture of where he needed to be, but then you have all these other things working against him on the communication front and the treatment of the members of the team that I was unaware of. Then once we had to let him go, then we basically lost another carpenter 2 weeks later, and then one a week after that, all with like no notice, no warning, just like 3 people out the door, like bang, bang, bang. And this is an office, a field team of 7. So that's we're almost half.
What impact did that have on the company from a profit, cash flow?
Well, I cried for a couple of days. So that was like when you realize that like the
Did you seriously?
Yeah, big time. Okay. Like the thing you realize when the thing you've built isn't what you thought it would be. That's really hard. Like we put, like, if anybody's on here and anybody's built their little thing, their little company. Some people brought it from the family until a family is.
I can totally relate to you.
Yeah. Like grown men cry. It's a thing.
No, I'm sorry.
Is like this is like watching the thing you've built not be the thing you wanted it to be is like really tough. And this is a scaling issue. And if it hasn't happened to you, it hasn't happened to you yet. If it hasn't happened to you, it hasn't happened to you yet.
Yes.
Because this is going to happen at some point, in some capacity, of some level of intensity, that the company you built and the company you wanted it to be will crumble and rebuild from the ashes.
Okay, so pause right there. That we gotta capture this one.
Sure.
Okay. So like, if it hasn't happened to you yet, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
In some level of
could be really intense, could be not.
Right.
But if you haven't had if the company that you're trying to build hasn't stumbled and broken in some way, to some capacity, hasn't fallen on the floor and pieces broken off of it, then it's going to happen, because that's
what makes you, and because
that's part of growth.
It's part of growth.
It has to happen, but no one tells.
Why does it have to happen?
Well, because you gotta learn what you suck at. You gotta learn what the things that we didn't have a good system, because out of this comes the system that we needed to have in a better position.
I agree with you.
There's more.
There's more. Okay. In my opinion. Okay. There's an identity shift that has to happen. Okay. So we got these
after the cry.
Well, after the cry. Yeah. After the cry. All right. There's an identity shift that has to happen. We have something here at PFC called the Contractor's Ladder of Success. Okay. There's different levels to it. There's startup, survival, stability, right? Scale and sell. Okay. And when you're talking about startup, okay, that's you on the tools. It's you out in the field. And you can have a profitable business, and you can feel like, I got this fucking thing nailed, and I'm in control, and everything's going as I want. And
all of those feelings are real until you move up to the next tier.
So when you move up to the next tier at survival and trying to get up to stability, what needs to shift is your identity. Okay. I'm not trying to make you guys into something that you're not. I'm saying, but as a CEO, your identity has to shift. Okay. And I'm going to just give a little snapshot moment. Okay. I'm not saying this was the moment. Okay. But it's an example of the moment.
Oh, well, okay. There's like, we joke internally with some of the team, like in the leadership team and the management team, we talk about like, we're on like Songwood version like 7.0.
Right.
Like we joke about this because, well, every one of these you're talking about is a big change. It's a change in me. It's a change in the team. But every one of these is a big mental shift, is a perspective shift,
Right.
is a change within. But every time you're iterating closer, and sometimes a couple steps back.
Sure.
Every version you're iterating towards a better, avatar company. You hear us talk about avatar clients, but like, what's the company you want to be? What's the company you're aiming to be?
Very good.
So there's a lot of that. Every time you you fall and you pick yourself back up again and dust yourself off, there is a perspective shift that has to take place, that will naturally take place, because it's a head shake and you're like, okay, wow, what I thought was happening wasn't.
Well, yeah, okay, but just a second. So I'm going to hit a moment here, and I'm going to, this guys, it's no bullshit podcast. We haven't scripted this fucking thing or anything. Okay, and I don't even know what he's going to say, but let's see what happens.
I don't know what he's going to add.
Right. So I remember there was a moment in time where you and I were on a call, and I said to you, and I'm not saying this was the magic wand, and I'm not taking all this fucking credit. There's a whole bunch of other experts you reached out to and things of that nature, but you're saying from a conversation that you and I had, one of the things that we talked about was, I said, it sounds like there's an issue with your culture. And one of the things I'd recommend that you do is you have a meeting with your team. Again, I'm going to do Cole's Notes version. A meeting with your team, kick yourself out of the fucking room, give your team a chance with a flip chart to write down what they see as the values of the company. And then write down what are the things that are not matching that value as far as challenges. Now, where I want to go with this, by the way, you might want to think about doing that if you got a team. So there's a little no bullshit tip, okay? But your facial expression, when I said that to you,
less than excited,
was less than excited.
I don't think I did the homework. Right. I don't think I think I struggled with booking that in and getting it. I did do it, but I didn't. I didn't do it the next day.
I kept on going. Have you booked it yet? No,
I didn't.
What the fuck are you?
I didn't do it the next day. I think it took me a little bit, but we did it.
So I want to hone in on that moment. Okay, what was it in your mind? And I don't know if you can articulate this, but there was a shift in your identity. Okay, especially the next time I had a call with you and you had that event, you were like excited. This was amazing. But before that, there was a hesitation. What was it in your identity that made you sort of go like, was it like, oh, this is fluff. This is bullshit. This is like, what was it?
So what you're referring to is the requirement for homework was basically to write a culture, like a culture statement or culture points for a company.
Yes.
And then be able to sort of pull a mission and vision out of that. Because without that, how do you keep people accountable, or how do you keep people aligned if you have no rules of the game? You all know baseball, but if every team played to a different set of rules, or every team member played to a different set of rules, then that would be very difficult. It'd be fine to play, but if I considered there to be 10 innings and you consider them to be 9, you'd be really frustrated. So the idea of the culture, but then also the mission and vision statement is to like, these are our rules of the game. We're not talking about like Ministry of Labor rules.
The things that are
We're talking about like the rules of the game that we play by.
Right.
So the idea was that instead of me coming up with those, because that would be rather selfish, because like I'm not the company, the team is the company. Without them, without them, the company doesn't exist. But I'm just in an office alone. And so the idea of like letting them dictate that was scary. Letting them why I'm leading into that is like letting them decide that and have them all sit down and they write down the rules. It's like, no, but it's my company though. But Andrew, why would they? I don't want to do that.
Right.
So probably why I pushed it off a couple of weeks is because I wasn't really super excited to see what that was going to be. But we did do just that. We bought them all breakfast, brought them in for an hour or so on a big boardroom, locked them in the boardroom, gave them a whiteboard, and then the leadership team left. So at that time, it was just myself and our construction manager, and we left. And we let them write bullet points of everything of what it was like to be at Songwood and what it was like not to be. Like what was,
So don't need to hear all of it, but what were some of the aha? So first things first, everybody just listen to this, okay? We're going to wrap this thing up in 10 minutes here, but I want you to catch something. He had to come to grips with a shift in identity from the perspective of like, this is not, and maybe I'm wrong here, but this is not just my company. The team is a big part of what makes up this company and its values. So
yeah, like, well, and the thing is, and as we talk about those iterations, V1, V2,
sure.
So it's like those shifts are like, it was just me.
It is scary.
For a while. It was just me for a while. It was me and then one. It was me and then two. It was me and then three. But then the idea of like, after a while, it's not mine anymore. It's I'm the one to hold the ground rules and keep the rules in place. But those rules of the game is like, when I've got enough team members that are aligned and know what I'm trying to deliver as far as a product and customer service, once they understand the model and we have like a mission and vision like on the board, is that it's my job to make sure everybody's held to that. But now it's like, it's bigger than me. It's the difference between having a...
Okay, so just capture that. It's bigger than me.
Yeah. Well, it's the difference of like having like like for those in Ontario, it's like a sole prop versus a corp.
Right.
If you think of the very granular data behind that, a sole proprietorship is you. The money that the company makes is you. A corporation now becomes another thing, and it makes money, and then you're part. So just in that model alone, only just the clerical side, imagine that's the same thing. Is that eventually the company becomes a thing. It's not you anymore. We use the term "what's best for the company" a lot. So it's not you versus me. I can operate. I can step away. I'm filming a podcast right now, and my phone isn't ringing. The company is bigger than me. It's not me anymore.
I love it. And an example of that, I went down to see Theo, okay? And I walked into his company, okay, guys? And we did a video of this, right? There's a little clip. You can see it on Facebook or social media. And it's Theo with his team. Not all the field guys were there, but, good chunk of the leadership team and office staff were in the office, okay? It's an open concept. And on the wall is what?
It's our mission, vision, and the culture statement.
Right. Okay. So this vision, mission, and culture statement. Okay. Then he hands, my awesome wife, Jennifer, who's listening right now, is down there, and our COO, and he hands us these mugs. And on the back of these mugs is what?
It's our culture points.
Isn't that interesting? Okay.
It's the rule. It's how we choose to behave in the company every day.
And you said something when we were just shooting the shit here before we got on this podcast about your team are acting as owners.
Yeah, that's a hard one to to drive, but it's a real thing. So we have I didn't fully understand how we were going to do this, but I'll tell you how we do it, and then you can see if this would work for you. But we've got a system where we've got rules of the game. So these rules of the game are listed here. So we have 6 culture points. Write your own. I'm not going to share these ones. These are ours. This is how we choose to behave. One of them is acting like an owner. Now, how do you get someone to act like an owner when they're not an owner? That's a tricky one. We had a lot of debate on acting like an owner when they're clearly not. They're just team members. But what is acting like an owner, and why? How could you even get someone to act like an owner? That sounds like a load of bullshit. And how do you get someone to try to act like it's their money or the client's money is their money? That's like that's a really big ask for someone. But what gets praised gets repeated.
Praise gets repeated.
So if you can build on that, if you can actually reward good behavior, then if it's not a dog and a treat, but we like to get kudos and credit for shit we do well. So this idea of rolling out, once we rolled these out, the second tier, the second wave of rolling that out was then to have like a nomination system where you could then, if this gets noticed, if this kind of behavior gets noticed in the company, then other team members can then comment and tag in a scoreboard or a Google form or a ClickUp.
Get noticed, right?
Get noticed for doing something like that.
Right.
And that is just straight up a financial thing. Yeah. That's just straight up monthly. It's like $50 to the nominee and $20 to the nominee tour, which is a financial encouragement to behave like this. And the idea was, well, Theo, what if no one gets nominated? What if after a while, like someone ever doesn't get mentioned? Like what if, Steve, I don't have a Steve. What if Steve never gets a nomination? Well, Steve would know that he's not really behaving inside our culture, wouldn't he?
That's right.
And if Steve feels left out, maybe there's a fucking reason Steve's left out.
Beautiful.
So, and those, again, what gets praised gets repeated. So those that do offer moments of acting like an owner or any one of those other steps, if that does get noticed and it does get nominated because there's a financial incentive to be noticing this kind of stuff. One of our guys that we weren't sure was going to be here in 90 days for last month was the most nominated person in 3 different categories. So that was pretty shocking.
I'm just gonna share something really quickly. This is some of your team members, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like they look pretty happy to me.
They do.
Right. It looks like it's beyond just like working, slugging, hammering nails.
Well, you gotta do fun stuff too. You know, it's not all. What is it? With Simon Sinek, that's that line was work. What is it? Work smart. Here you go. Work smart, play always. Work hard, play hard. That's such an
work smart, play.
Yeah, work hard, play hard is such an antiquated saying. It's such a bro-y, like boo or loo-rah thing. You know, it's like
Navy SEALs.
Yeah. Like work, work hard, play hard. Like just get drunk at the bar and then get smashed and go back to work the next day. No, it's we always work. We always have fun. That's a culture thing. You have to build that into your company. You have to tell everybody that this is one of the rules of the game here. We spend more time together than you do with your family. So why wouldn't you be having more fun on the job site? Because if you don't like where you work, don't show up.
Okay, couple of quick little things before we wrap this baby up, okay? I want to emphasize something, okay, about the benefit of this culture statement of your team members acting as owners, okay? So I went and I interviewed, okay, very short interview. I interviewed one of Theo's employees.
Team members.
Yeah, team members, yep. And love it. See that correction? Team members, okay? And I'm just going to give you the Cole's Notes version of what he said that's directly related to this. I said, like, what is it that makes you stay here? Okay, and there was a bunch of things, but one of the things that he said was the company's ability to be open to ideas and change from a team member perspective, as far as being willing to hear feedback on systems that aren't working, being willing to take input on like what's going to work for us out here in the field from a system perspective versus in the office perspective. Okay. Not to get into what system the point was that he felt that he could contribute. He felt that he was part of the solution. And he felt that the team, okay, saw that everybody was on the same page from that perspective to say, like, this has to work for us. You know, this has to work for the people in the field. It has to work for people in the office, not just the owner dictating, this is the system you need to use, okay? Because systems, guys, is one of the most important things that you want to put in your contracting business. And we hear a lot of contractors go, my guys won't follow my system, or they won't use my checklist. And it's like, okay, so how much
sounds like a lot of you statements in there,
right?
Or a lot of me statements in there,
right?
Which isn't necessarily the right approach. Again, it becomes bigger than you right after a while. It's like, if you think you've got it all figured out, if you think you're going to be the solution to all this stuff,
it's so true.
You're going to get the cold fish of reality slapped across the face. That feedback is paramount, and being able to, I don't know, like, not to use like sappy words or nothing, but like, you have to be open and vulnerable enough to like give your company away to them and their systems. Now, remember, it's what's best for the company. So you can't be like, I want to work 4-hour days and have paid lunches and beanbag chairs. They can't do that. But asking the team members what they want out of us, that takes some set of balls to be able to be okay with like turning your company over to them and saying, what do you need from us to be successful? And I've never had a boss that asked me that. Right. But that's what this is about. That's this whole culture statement, and the mission and vision is about being open to listening to them, and you better fucking act on it. Because there's no point in you asking what your team members want from you and then doing nothing. You might as well not have asked.
So this brings me to where I want. So you just naturally went down that path.
You're welcome.
I love it. Okay, love it. Is you allowed yourself to be vulnerable. You know, we had the call. I could see you're uncomfortable. I can tell with body language when somebody's like, you know, scratching their neck, you know, like or shoulder over here, right? That it's like, okay, he has to digest this, okay? But you allowed yourself to be vulnerable because you just didn't get them to go in a room and say hey, here's the values we want. You got them to also write down the things of like what the business was not. So vulnerability, guys, if you want to be a champion CEO of a contracting business, you have to be vulnerable. It's not fucking easy. Like if you think that I'm going to bullshit you and say, oh guys, it's going to be awesome. Like Okay. Yes, Theo jumped on the next call we had and was all excited, but there was a moment, okay, where he was, I don't know if the word is shitting your pants or you want to call it nervous or like, oh my God, what are they going to say? But that vulnerability is a scary fucking place, isn't it?
Yeah, because you don't know, because it's no longer yours. Again,
or you don't know what they're going to tell you.
Rewind 5 minutes. It's like, it's bigger than you. Right. You're officially like giving away the keys to the castle, being like, what do you think this is? What do you think this company is? I know what I wanted it to be and built, but at this point, I can't exactly force my way upon all this. So this has to be a point where I can give up a little bit of the, cut a little piece off and be like, this is now a team member. Like if you, it's the actual comment box that, restaurants have the comment card box, but then no one actually reads those. You go to the restaurant and you put it in there that the fish was cold. No one actually reads those and it never improves. And then you never go back to that restaurant and you leave a bad review. Well, how is a business any different? And so it's like, if you're not gonna ask and if you don't care, that's fine. Don't ask. Let me know how that works for you. That's totally fine. But if you actually are like, you have to be hungry for that information. And I think that's what maybe took me a hot minute to get okay with, is you have to be interested in getting that information. And I was not very interested in getting that information. I was not looking for a new education, Andrew. I was not looking to get that feedback. But once you come to the realization that you don't have it all figured out and you don't have the answers, and why the fuck would you know what they want? That's a little fucking, cavalier to think that you know what you need in your business. It'd be interesting to know that you think you know what you need in your business, because I guarantee you don't. You don't know what they want out of your business. Yeah. I didn't ask them about the financials. I didn't ask them about sales and marketing. I didn't ask them about that. It was like the team. What does the team need? What do you need from me? Because I'm a support role. Me, the construction manager, the project managers, everybody in the leadership team is a support role for the business. They're just here to support our carpenters. The carpenters are the guys they're the guys at the top of the tier. They're the installers. They're the production guys. They're the guys that make us the money. Mm-hmm. I don't make the company any money. Mm-hmm. I'm overhead. Mm-hmm. So is everybody in the office. So we're just support roles for them. As far as like a linear timeline of who makes us money, I'm below a laborer as far as what makes the company money. It's true, right? So my role is to support them and give them what they need. Yep. And I'm not like tools and ladders and shit, although that's a component of it. But I want to make sure they have the resources, the training, iPads on site, they have the tools and equipment as well. But like all the resources, all the comments and questions they need, is we're there to support them. But that's sorely missed in the industry, that the CEO is actually interested in listening to anybody in the field, because they would think they're going to ask for like $10 more an hour in paid lunches. That's not usually what they want. Mm-hmm. They usually want structure. They usually want support. They usually want the occasional houseboat holiday, which was a great afternoon of drinking on the water. That's usually what they want. They're usually pretty realistic, because it's what's best for the company. Very few people in this request selfish things. No one asks for selfish things in here. They just ask for things that what's betters the company. They operate within the culture points of the company. They drive towards the mission and vision. Yep. But you have to ask.
Yep. So look, I'm not shitting you, okay? If you're having a challenge in retaining your team, if you're having a challenge in, I don't have the right quality, there's not the right quality of workmanship. I mean, the list goes on, okay? I'm not saying this is the end all to be all, but this is like massive, all right? Nobody wants to come to work, not be at a place that's enjoyable, okay? And when you're asking for their input, if anybody's going to know what they need, it's not you, it's them, okay? So guys, build a culture. Take some of these key points from Theo, okay? He's giving you some really amazing strategies, tactics that you can take away. Core principles out of this. What would be the wrap up? If you were to say, like, what would be the top 2 or 3 principles that you just want to highlight and even repeat from what you said earlier, what would they be?
I would say the realization that the company is bigger than what you create.
Okay. Yep.
Because it's not just you in charge anymore.
Yep.
And then being vulnerable, like being open to feedback. And I mean, like, genuinely open to feedback. Not like, hey, here's a comment box. I was told by Coach Allison to give it out.
Right.
I was told by Coach Andrew to hand it. Genuinely interested in feedback.
Yep.
And the third one is you have to act upon it. So you can't unscripted.
That's it.
You have to act upon it, because that is actually worse than even asking in the first place if you don't do anything with it. So we're now approaching, we'll be over 20 people. We were 14 or 13 or so when we rolled this out. And the people that we attract because of this, you can ask, and I hope you can ask any team member in the company of how we operate. And those things they genuinely ask for feedback from the field.
Very good.
I don't know. I never worked for a company. Again, 20 employers. I was never asked how my boss could be better. I was never asked how the company could better support me. And I was never asked what I needed in order to be successful in my job.
Right. Okay. So guys, you're an owner of a contracting business. We're wrapping this baby up. You can pause this. You can rewind it. You can share it with your leadership team. Use it. Okay. If you want to get help on these things, you want to get some insights, you want to, get a customized, snapshot audit of where do you sit, from these different perspectives and different areas. Okay. You can, book in a call down below with one of our champion CEOs, fellow like-minded people just like Theo. And we can really get to the crux of what is holding your business back, especially that's holding your team back, which is holding you back, which is holding your business back. And that's another No Bullshit podcast for contractors. Thank you, brother. Awesome. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Good job,
Appreciate it.
Okay. In being vulnerable and fucking taking your business to the next level with your team.
Thanks, guys.
See you, boys. See you guys.
Hey, rock stars. Thank you for watching the No Bullshit podcast for contractors. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. And if you're serious about growing and need help, click on the link below. Myself and my team would love to help and give you the necessary tools so you can take your contracting business to the next level. And remember, dominate, delegate, and deliver.